Welcome to Chai After Dark, everyone. This is Shabnam, and I'm here with my co-host, Sameem. What's up, Sameem?
Hey, what's up? This is a very serious episode.
No, it's a very serious episode. Today we're covering the new Adnan Syed documentary on Max. Do you happen to have the updated name? I don't.
The Case Against Adnan Syed. The tree grew.
That's what it is. There you go. So we have actually covered this case before. It was one of our earlier episodes it might have been September 2024. We covered it because there was updates in the case then. So if you're interested in the legal intricacies, I talk about it more in detail in that episode. But this one, we're going to just kind of talk about the documentary itself and the human aspect. It goes through some of the legal stuff that we already discussed, but with the background of kind of what the people are dealing with and what's going on while the legal system is taking course. So,
yep. Last year when we went through it, it was the motion to vacate that was filed and accepted in 2024. So that was a big deal. But then when we did it, it was reversed. So the March 2024 conviction was vacated September 2024. We went over the reversal, but of course he never went back to prison.
Yeah, so basically he was convicted in 2000 of murdering his high school classmate who was also his girlfriend for a time, Heyman Lee. And he was 17. His legal team is looking at two aspects of the case, both proving his innocence and filing under the Maryland Juvenile Restoration Act, which allows people who were convicted of crimes as juveniles to go back to the court to ask for a second look. So the Juvenile Restoration Act was passed in December 2024. It also enables people who served more than 20 years to ask for a reduction in sentence as well. And so he was in prison for almost 24 years when he was initially let out based on overturning his conviction in 2024. And then what happened at that sentencing was the victim's family, Heyman Lee's family, said they didn't get enough notice to be heard. So the government overturned their overturning, and they basically said he was guilty again, but they didn't put him back in prison. And then his team basically filed a petition under the Juvenile Restoration Act, and his sentence was reduced to time already served. And so he's going to stay a free man, but there's still not been
an exoneration.
Yeah, there hasn't been an exoneration. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
So overall thoughts on this case is, for 10 years, since the advent of Serial, and in that initial podcast that we talked about, I called Serial the first podcast ever, but which is obviously not the case. But for me, I'm going to be very honest here, and Shabnam, you already know, I don't really listen to podcasts on a daily basis, and the only podcast that I've sort of listened to through and through is that Serial Rabia Chaudhry first Adnan Syed podcast from 2015.
Yeah.
So I may be biased a little bit. What do you think?
I mean, I think what made me bias is just hearing, I wouldn't say bias. I think what kind of opened my eyes in a new way and made me sort of touched me, for lack of a better word, is the fact that there was so much kind of injustice that went along throughout his case and over time throughout his life. That is, food for thought. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think he's guilty or not?
I don't think he's guilty. And
I kind of do.
As Rabia says at the end, even if he is guilty, he's spent more time than a juvenile would have.
Yeah.
So what the fuck? Let him go, essentially, even if he is guilty. So I don't think he's guilty, though. What do you think through and through?
I don't think he's guilty, but same as what you just said. And also, he seems to have an amazing track record in prison of helping people and being of service. And so if prison is meant to rehabilitate, and if he actually did it, he seems rehabilitated.
Exactly. And that's a very common misconception in the United States. The recidivism rates are so high, and we don't actually look at why they're so high. But when you look at a model prisoner like he was, if there was dirt on him, that should be out and about. It would be
Yeah.
everywhere. It would be right-wing fodder,
Yeah.
except there wasn't. So who do they go attack? The prosecutor that wants to help him and exonerate him,
Yeah.
and at least open an investigation, even if it is not a full exoneration.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
I
so
think,
let's get into it.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, this first part, did you know about it? What you're about
No.
to get into?
No, I didn't know about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is wild. I can't believe we didn't know this.
I know, it's so crazy.
Let's
and
buckle
so
in.
yeah. So basically the documentary starts out with an introduction and like a voiceover from a post lady. What do you call them? Post
You
lady?
don't call her a postman lady. What?
A post lady.
You know what's funny?
Is she a post lady?
No, she's a
What?
postwoman.
Postwoman. Okay.
Like, we can't be calling people females. That's one thing I've learned on the internet. You got to call them women. I have a quick Pakistani post office story, just so we can be a little levity. I think might help here.
Okay.
We're all children of immigrants, right? And I think we talk about that quite often on this podcast. My parents came here first out of all their siblings in the 70s. And then we had some people follow us, which is, chain migration, right? Pisses everyone off.
Yeah.
On the right side.
Yeah.
On the right wing side. And in the mid 90s, early 90s, my family started coming, my mom's other siblings and their kids. Their kids were quite young. And one of my siblings calls me randomly. I'm not even joking. Like, I don't know, my home phone number when I was still in high school. And he's like, hey, I'm in the United States and I got a job. I'm a postal carrier. I was like, what? And I was like, for 8 to 9 years, my mom would always bring it up. This kid made more money than I did for like a decade.
Wow.
Wow,
that's awesome.
Younger. No, he's amazing. And he's still working for the post office. So it's been 30 years, Shabnam. And he runs like all the distribution of everything in DC, Northern Virginia, everything.
Damn.
He's like a big time postal office guy. Not a
That's
postal
cool.
woman lady or whatever. He's a man.
He's a
through and
postal
through.
carrier. Okay, that's what it is. So this woman was a postal carrier.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, let's go. Sorry.
Just like your cousin.
Yep.
So this woman who's a postal carrier, just like your cousin, she says she saw a black man coming out of the woods fully naked, but with a hood over his head and with a girl's pink jacket while holding a...
Let's just stop there. And
So
then
crazy.
Maybe that image exists on a phone.
Yeah.
Which is,
and Radia has it handily on her phone. Did you? I was like, okay.
Because in 2000, we could pull out our phones, believe it or not, and take a picture. Like our tiny Nokias and Motorola Razors, right? I'm like, well, I'm still trying to digest this.
You bring up a good point because the resolution wasn't super sharp, and that's why they could show the picture without blurring his genitalia.
Yeah.
Because the resolution's low enough to where it's blurry enough as it is. But yeah.
And the stereotype was not true.
Oh, okay. But also he was called out, but he was wearing a ski mask also, you know, just for good measure. He's covering something he didn't need to and not something he should have.
You know what this reminds me of, Shabnam?
What?
Indrani Mukherjee driving around a swamp saying that she didn't do shit near the body.
Oh, yeah.
And he's near the body and they don't even interview him, but he's going to say he didn't do shit, right? So it's the same thing. It's like the coincidence that you're hanging out, and I'm not saying he did it. I'm just saying, like, go back and listen to our Indrani Mukherjee episode. She has the same excuse. She's just like, no, I was looking for land for a farm next to my daughter's body that I did not murder. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So this was obviously the woods that he was walking out of was where Heyman Lee's body was found. And so the postal carrier takes a picture of him and then she gets the hell out of there. And she has to stop at a stop sign on the way out. And he comes and starts attacking her car because he knows that she took a picture of him. And then she drives away, trying to get away from him. And she finds another guy to try to help her. And she notices a black pickup driving past them as she's talking to the person. And she tells the guy she's talking to, I think that's the guy I'm trying to run away from. And that's kind of the end of that. It never really gets looked into. And so then at trial, we see that he also had a lot of inconsistencies in his testimony on what he said previously and what he said at trial. And he's also been recently charged with second-degree assault. So, sounds like a great guy. Definitely a liar and assaulter. It seems like you might want to look into him as a potential murderer if he's, circumstantial evidence is there.
There's a long way to go from flashing your PP to murdering someone, and I'm not an expert on crime escalation, but a few years ago when my daughter was in middle school, there was a flasher, and they caught him. Thank God they caught him, but back in the Bay Area, which was actually one of the main reasons why we left San Jose, was getting kind of ghetto, where we lived at least, and it was like a gray Camry. He would drive around the school, and he would do what he's not supposed to do with middle schoolers around. So they finally caught him, but it took a while. We kept getting emails where like another sighting, another sighting, another sighting. So obviously the escalation could be there, especially if you're being that bold. Not picking him up 24 years ago is just, I can't even imagine. Like, how do you even do an investigation without talking to anyone and everyone? It's really strange.
Yeah, and speaking of that, in the hearing for his new charge, second-degree assault, they actually mention Adnan Syed's case, and he's the one that found Heyman Lee's body, actually, and that he had indecently exposed himself previously as well. That's one of the things Rabia brings up. She's like, it's really weird. They're trying to tie it back to Adnan's case and show that he's guilty in this instance, but he got off scot-free at that time. It's pretty insane.
And to bring up a prior from 20 years, because what you're referring to, the second degree assault that he was picked up for, that was in 2021.
Yeah.
So bringing
crazy.
something up 21 years prior that he wasn't convicted for and or even questioned for, how is that relevant?
Yeah. Yeah.
All of this makes
crazy.
No sense.
Yeah. It almost feels like at that point, maybe it's kind of a known thing that he was involved amongst the local prosecutors, but it's unresolved, right? Like that's what it feels like when you hear that.
Yeah.
So they gave a suspended sentence to him, which is also weird. And then when officers actually searched his home, though, they found newspaper clippings from January 1999 until the end of the year under his couch. And that was exactly the time period of when Heyman Lee went missing and was found.
And this is circumstantial evidence. However, every movie that I've ever seen and the cops end up nearing the main antagonist that is the violent killer and or the bad person, every time they walk into that person's apartment, what do they see? They see an entire board on the wall, and they say,
with
oh my
red
God.
yarn.
With red yarn, and they're like, this person is insane. Oh my God, I didn't know.
Yeah, and this is so hilarious because it just, instead of on the wall with red yarn, it was under the couch.
Under the couch, yeah. I understand. If you picked up a body, if you found a body and you didn't do it, I can see grabbing those newspaper clippings because it's something that, you're part of this lore, this myth, who did it, who didn't do it. So he's part of it, whether he did it or not.
But it's also weird that you would keep that for 20 years.
Wouldn't they disintegrate, by the way, under the couch? Newspaper doesn't really, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think, like, I guess it's reasonable. If you don't move for 20 years, maybe you just left it there. Yeah. I don't know. Good point.
Alonzo Sellers, reach out. Maybe we'll interview him because he did decline a request for comment for this documentary.
Yeah. So also, Alonzo was never, like we said, looked into at the time. Susan Simpson, lawyer and advocate for Adnan, says the craziest thing is that a bottle of alcohol near Heyman Lee's body was never tested for DNA. And there are skin cells on that bottle that the government just has never tested. There was also no DNA testing on her rape kit, which there was apparently viable DNA on her shirt and bra. So basically, Adnan's team has reached out to the state to complain about this, and they're waiting, at least at this part of the documentary, to see what the state will do with regard to the DNA testing and what's still available and not.
The reason the state says they don't test it was because there was limited DNA testing capability in 1999. However, they could have tested it. and it could have been
Yeah.
inconclusive, but they didn't even try that. So
Yeah.
again, DNA evidence has exonerated people 20 something years later, right? It's
Yeah.
happened in this country. So my thing about the entire prosecution, and we're about 15 minutes into the documentary, is that when you're trying to just hide everything that could potentially be part of this case, it just makes you look guilty. It just does.
Yeah.
And the now they get into different prosecutors and things like that. It's just like all these dudes and all these women that were around the case on the prosecution side just don't look like good faith actors.
Yeah. So basically, one of the interesting things Adnan brings up from one of the voice recordings we hear from the time he was in jail is he's like, basically, him and his family have always pushed for DNA testing, and the state has never wanted to do the testing, which is curious. It's very curious.
Mm-hmm.
So then we see Trump makes an appearance in this documentary. So Marilyn Mosby is a progressive prosecutor elected in Baltimore County, which is where all of this took place. So apparently we see clips of Donald Trump on TV talking about how she's a disgrace to all prosecutors. And then she says, that's a badge of honor in my book.
This is 2015. It's 2015, 2016.
Oh.
Yeah, it's when he got first elected. This is well before George Floyd. This is when he was just attacking black women. We forget.
Yeah.
We forget. He was literally attacking every black woman he could in 2015 and 2016 while he was running. And you can go back and listen to it. You can get mad at me. But he was attacking black women. That was what he was doing. It was almost his campaign, and Muslims. And he got elected. And he loved that she brought up the fact that she's a progressive prosecutor. She's going to forego convictions for people that were not only innocent, but also if cops had a bad history and found to perjure themselves, lie in the past, hide evidence, not display evidence, she's like, that's cause for exoneration for a lot of people, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she said
anytime the right sees something like that, then they're going to attack the progressive prosecutor. It's never about the actual substance or context.
You're totally right. So she vacated 790 convictions based on 18 identified corrupt police officers, like you were saying. So she said these police officers were found to have a lot of misconduct. And based on that, she's overturning these 790 convictions. So 25-year-old Freddie Gray's death was one of the few times police were prosecuted for a death of a black man in this country. And that was under her purview. And we see Trump again. He says she ought to prosecute herself.
Wow. Such amazing insight. And I don't even, whatever, let's just keep going. I can't even say anything to that because I understand that's, as I just said, he was attacking people quite religiously, but this is just like, this is racism, people. When you see someone that's black and then on top of that, a woman, which becomes misogyny, it's just with zero information about the person, without knowing if the person's good, without knowing anything about someone, it's just an attack. And the attack goes viral, and this is where we're at.
So then she says, she actually gives her response, which is she really looked into this stuff because she says what she found is that 95% of prosecutors are white and 79% of prosecutors in this entire country are white men. So,
what?
You know, yeah. Isn't that insane? Those are insane numbers. Insane numbers.
Well, it correlates. I think I've said this a few episodes ago. There's this takeover. I was just in Portland, Oregon. I saw some diversity, but there's still white people in this country, people. There's a lot of white people. Like, what are you upset about? Look at this.
Yeah.
Look at this figure. And then do you want me to add another figure to this before you get into what Adnan Syed actually says and how he was treated? In 2022, that's the latest statistics I could find. Black youth made up 37% of delinquency cases in the United States, but 60% were referred juvenile to adult. White youth made up more of the delinquency cases. Obviously, sheer numbers, there's more of them. However, 26% were referred to adult court from juvenile court. That's such an insane discrepancy
yeah,
for who's referred to adult court.
Yeah, it's so crazy. So there's a, I mean, and that's just an inherent, I mean, we see that nowadays, right? Like if a white person commits a crime, a white boy, especially, like, oh my God, he must have been depressed. Whereas like if a black boy commits a crime, it's like, oh, he's going to turn into a murderer. We better like stop him now,
We
you
can't
know?
even say this stuff in the
Yeah.
country anymore because everyone knows it's true, it's legit, and brown people, black people, non-white people, women included, even white women, we always get lumped up with each other.
Yeah.
And blanket statements are able to describe all of us. But we can't do that
Yeah.
the other
No,
way.
not. Yeah. So there's evidence that the attorneys who prosecuted him have lied or withheld evidence to court in other cases. So this is another chain of where there was potential mishandling and bad actors in his case. So funnily enough, we hear his voice from the court recordings from the prison phone calls saying, I have a whole collection of bad apples. It's pretty funny and true, you know? So the state and Erica, one of his attorneys, file a joint petition to vacate Adnan's conviction. This was discussed on a previous episode. I'm not going to go into the details. You can go ahead and listen to that one if you're interested in the legal intricacies. Of note is that it's extremely rare for the state to join a petition for vacating a conviction. But a lab was ordered in that case to test Heyman Lee's clothes that she was wearing when she died. And the state said in that petition that they joined that if the petitioners, meaning Adnan's, DNA is not present on the evidence, that would be an exculpatory fact and they would exonerate him based on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was all done by Marilyn Mosby's office. However, there's a guy called Brian Frosch who was a DA before, and now he's the AG, the state of Maryland. And he doesn't want the case overturned. That makes him look bad in his original capacity as being a DA in the office.
Mhm.
And Marilyn says justice requires that we look into this case, but Brian Frosch is against it. So there are challenges with DNA testing, like you talked about, because the DNA is degraded. But her office really wants to really see what's available and see if there's anything that can be tested. But she does bring up she's concerned that when her term ends, the next prosecutor may not be as willing to look into the case. So she says, we are going to expedite individuals who have actual claims of innocence. And she's very committed to doing this. So based on the petition that they filed, he can be released from jail if the judge grants that petition while they're deciding whether or not to prosecute him again. Marilyn tells Adnan's team that she's been hearing rumors that Brian Frosch, who's now the AG and who previously worked in the DA's office, is now try to file an injunction to make this petition not happen to keep Adnan in jail.
Okay, Brian
So,
Frosch.
yeah.
I mean,
Sit
if
down.
you know something that is
Yeah.
giving you such conviction that he is guilty, then you need to release that information, but they don't have anything other than trying to cover up. And
Yeah.
we never look for the obvious, but it's like if there's no new information being released from the prosecution side and or doubling down on what he actually got convicted on, they won't even do that.
Yeah. So Marilyn's filing, it's funny because her name is Marilyn and she works in Maryland.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, wait, what am I saying? Okay, so Marilyn's filing also asserted that exculpatory evidence was not disclosed to the defense at the time of trial, specifically two alternative suspects. It also asserts that one was improperly cleared, so not following police procedure. And one of these suspects is Alonzo Sellers. And turns out he has a family member who lives in a house right next to where Heyman Lee's car was found.
And then they say it again. The house that was closest to the car where her body was found is his relative.
Yeah.
The closest
It's
house
so
to the
crazy.
car is Alonzo Sellers' relative, and he was there naked. I don't
Yeah.
even know why they wouldn't look into this. I do know why. We do know why.
So also, just to point out to the listener, when the prosecution doesn't turn over this evidence, that's called a Brady violation. And it's like a really, really big deal. It's like a big, my bad on the state's part, a big violation. So
Yeah.
So Maryland is more concerned with ensuring justice than securing a large number of convictions, which is what every prosecutor should be, but some are not.
Yeah.
So then we get into the 2024 timeline where the actual exoneration hearing happens. And we hear from Heyman Lee's brother, who attends the meeting via Zoom. And he says he's not against the judge looking into the case, and he wants the judge to, quote unquote, make the right decision. And Adnan Syed ends up being released after that hearing. It's a huge moment of victory for the whole team and the family, but we do hear little bits of his lawyer talking outside about how the family seems to now have issue with the amount of notice, and we obviously hear more about that later. And like I said, we covered it in our previous episode, where the family wants this overturned because of that, and it does get overturned, but he still ends up released. This is like a cool moment though. Like, he comes out, the whole crowd starts cheering. He sees some guys that were also in prison before who had been released, some, ex-exonerees, either exonerees or people that just did their time. I'm not sure. And he like waves to them. He's like all excited to see them. It's a pretty cool moment.
They were his age when they were locked up. So
Yeah.
Look, I'm going to go out on a limb and say those three guys were guilty. But they were released.
Yeah.
Because they had done 30 years. And this Brian Frosch guy tried to keep Adnan Syed in prison for 4 more years.
Yeah.
Even if he didn't do it, the state attorney general, the one that you just referred to, his offer was, okay, but let's just keep him in prison for 4 more years. I don't, what? It's such an arbitrary number. He's already done a quarter century in prison for something he may not have committed. And there's 3 people there that were his brothers in prison. They're released for crimes I'm assuming they did.
Yeah. Well, we have no way of knowing that, whether they did or they didn't. But they did time.
At some point, we have to, people in prison did the time. If 100% of the people are innocent, then there's major, major issues. And a good majority of people probably did the crime. We're not anti-police or anti-prosecution or anti-justice. We're anti-corruption,
improper
investigation. Everybody needs the fair share of the justice system that we have. And even her brother says, I'm not against opening an investigation for Adnan Syed to see if he didn't do it. I just don't want him out of prison, which I think is probably a fair assessment coming from them, because in their mind, his entire life has been predicated on Adnan Syed being the murderer. So I don't blame her family at all in this situation.
Of course not. Of course not.
Such a difficult thing to for her family. She is the victim. She's dead.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And even Adnan acknowledges that, and he
keeps
talks
talking
about how about her and her family and what they've been through. And so then we get into something else I wanted to touch on, which is the racism in the trial. So we've kind of touched on this throughout our episode, but we see a clip from the 1999 trial with the prosecuting attorney in it. And Erica J. Sutter, director of the Innocence Project Clinic, who's Adnan's lawyer, is kind of walking us through this. And she says, the process was so fundamentally flawed with a lot of racism and Islamophobia. And the footage from the 1999 trials shows the prosecuting attorney saying, there's a pattern in America of young Pakistan males who've committed murder and have fled to Pakistan. And
she said Pakistan males, everybody. She didn't say Pakistani males. She didn't have any real life examples. She had no figures. She had no percentages.
Also, he's not an adult. He was a boy.
And he's not an adult. So he's not even in that realm that she's talking about. Exactly. You're correct.
Yeah. And also a pattern in America.
Look,
that's
1999,
really
Shabnam, was 31 years after the Civil Rights Act.
Yeah.
And 1999 today is 26 years ago. So the people that were alive in 1999, like this effed up prosecutor, we don't know who her parents were. We don't know what she was taught. But the way she's speaking, she was probably taught white people rule.
Yeah.
What are we going to say at this point? 26 years later, everything's been validated.
Yeah. So Marilyn Mosby is federally indicted on charges related to a home purchase in Florida only 4 months before her election. So I tried to figure out what this was for exactly. I couldn't figure out what it was for. I'm assuming maybe some kind of like fraud or
I
tax
remember
thing or
this
something like
case.
that.
I remember this
Okay.
very well. I didn't even look it up. I can tell you what they did. I didn't look it up.
Okay.
You know how Donald
Okay. Go
Trump
for it.
is a real estate baron? He is. He obviously has property and money in real estate. And we've talked about this on previous episodes. He overinflates his assets when he needs to get a loan.
Yeah.
He under represents them when he has to pay taxes.
Yeah. Yeah.
This came out of nowhere. However, that's what they picked her up for. She's saying, come on. Like, come on.
Yeah.
And then I don't think she was actually convicted or anything. I think she got normal fucking mortgages, and he probably called some bank and was like, let's find some misdirection, some misuse of something off by a percentage, and they found it.
Yeah, and this was, like I said, 4 months before the election, so highly suspicious. And guess what? She didn't get reelected. Wow. So,
yeah, we had Uncle Tom, another progressive prosecutor, but he was some Bengali or Desi guy that became mayor of Baltimore, and he's a fucking Uncle Tom, dude. He didn't want Adnan Syed out at all.
Yes. Yeah,
Who
I know.
is
That
this
guy,
guy?
I know. They followed him on the street camera, like when Adnan was getting released, and you just see he doesn't want to look in the camera.
I mean, they're it's a club, and they invite people in like that to the club to toe the party line. And I don't mean political party. I mean just the club, the elite party club. I don't know.
Yeah. Then I want to talk about Adnan's life in prison and his time coming out and that aspect of it. So what's really interesting about him is he constantly talks about being grateful for friends he has in prison and people who've helped him through the disappointments in his case and like brought him out of like being depressed and things like that. And that's really interesting. Kind of made me feel a little bad about myself. I was like, damn, I should be more grateful if this person can be grateful.
I mean, his entire life was prison, so he seems like a genuine guy, and if he's not, he's an amazing actor, right? So having that life in prison for 24 years, he's never known adult life in real life.
Yeah.
And I would expect that you make lifelong connections when you're in prison like that. Who else is he going to speak to? He even says, I haven't seen my dad. I've barely seen my mom. They speak on the phone. We'll get to the dad. But I kind of get it. And I guess judging people out there with the worst thing they've ever done is what prison is.
Yeah.
And when they're in there, if you remove what that guy did, and I'm not talking about Adnan Syed, I'm just talking about any detainee, any prisoner, remove it and they just become a normal person. And there's no choice in prison. That's how you have to live. Also, Adnan Syed obviously was with the brothers in prison because there's the brothers, there's the Woods, that's the white
people. Interesting. What is okay?
I don't know why they call it the Woods or Wood or something like that. And then there's the others, and that's like the Asians and everybody else.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and then in California, at least, there's the Norteños and the Sureños are kept separate because of the Mexicans, North and South rivalry. So those are the 4 to 5 prison collection of groups that you can be a part of. And I kind of feel like Adnan Syed was taken into the brothers.
Good for him.
We don't mean good for him that he was in prison. We mean at least he didn't say anything bad about prison. Right?
Yeah.
It's a pretty grateful person. And also, he didn't fall to his knees when he was released or anything. His emotional capacity is quite restrained, I guess.
Yeah. Which is funny, right? Because the whole basis of his crime is that he must have like lost control emotionally. And he doesn't seem that way now.
Pakistan Male does Pakistan things and goes back to Pakistan emotionally.
Yeah.
Shut up, lady.
Yeah. And then, like we mentioned earlier, he very much acknowledges Hae Min Lee and her life and her family and their struggles, which is really good. But aside from all of that, we also get to see his family and the toll that this has taken on his family. And so His mom actually runs a daycare, and apparently she's run a daycare out of her house for a really long time. We see that she gets a lot of joy from that. She's also kept his room in exactly the same condition as it was when he was arrested and when he left. And that was really crazy to see too. It's like frozen in time from like whatever 25 years ago. It's kind of insane.
It's the same
It's
bed.
like a teenage boy's.
Yeah, it looked.
Yeah.
I had a twin bed growing up with some flower comforter that my mom probably got at the San Jose flea market on Berryessa, and that's what he had. So it's. I mean, like, what is she gonna do like in that room?
Yeah.
Like, no one's gonna.
Yeah.
She did say Yusuf sleeps in there, so which is
his brother.
which is pretty
Yeah.
crazy that kid's been
Yeah.
sleeping in that room in
Yeah.
a time capsule all these years.
Yeah. And then we learn also that his mom's dealing with a cancer diagnosis and his dad is also very ill. And so they don't specify, but when they show his
Mhm.
dad later, it looks a little like Parkinson's or dementia. But then his mom mentioned something about his dad getting very depressed too.
He left.
So I wasn't sure.
She said he
Oh,
left.
he left the family?
He left the family.
Yeah, okay,
She
that's
says
what-
that. They
Yeah.
don't. He left. I don't know where he's been for 24 years, but they separated after this.
Okay. And then she also says she doesn't hold it against him.
What is she gonna do? I mean, this is just the most difficult thing you can ever go through, right? So it's
Yeah.
I don't know what I would do.
Yeah. So Nan says when he was in prison and they were talking to him, one of the interesting things he said was that the more time that goes by, he stops thinking about what he would do when he gets out. And now he starts thinking he'll get to it when he gets to it, because he says when he was younger, he used to be like, well, I could still go to college. He still wanted to do things. And as he gets older and older, he's like, I'll just kind of plan for it when I get to it. I get to it. And he says there's a lot of people in prison that don't have a time they're getting out. It's just a life sentence. And so he said, like in his facility, it's kind of just a warehouse. And I was like, damn, that's actually really insane.
It's
to
just,
think
yeah,
about.
it's inhumane. I don't know why we're trying to keep up with the countries with the most ridiculous conviction rates and or terrible justice system, and we're very intent on becoming the same. The United States is. So he's right. I mean, it's just like, let's lock them up. Let's not give them any help or anything like that. But you do have to find your own life in prison, and he did. So
Yeah.
but he's obviously a bit more intelligent than the average prisoner. I don't want to say it like that and be rude, but it seems like he is.
He seems very articulate.
Mhm. At least that. Yeah.
Yeah. So his legal team is trying to be supportive of him and his family. You see the legal team talking to his brother Yusuf, who we learn had to take a bunch of time off college and grad school or whatever he was pursuing to take care of his parents, because now he's like this sort of only child, and his parents, are having all these health issues as they age. And then Yusuf really kind of breaks down and gets emotional. He talks about missing his brother, and he basically had a brother and then he didn't have a brother, and it was really touching the way he talked about it.
Yeah, I just want to throw a quick fuck ice in there, because you never look at what families go through when somebody is removed.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And then you see that in prison, he's hoping to be able to come home so that he can help his family and his parents. Prior to his release, his mom and brother don't even really want to tell his dad about it, because they don't feel like his dad can handle it if there's disappointment on the other end of that. So they just decide to keep it to themselves. And before he leaves for his hearing from jail, he basically writes a will of like, you can give my typewriter to this person and this other possession to these other people. Yeah, Xbox. Yeah. 'Cause he's basically like, don't give it yet unless like I get released, because if I'm coming back, then I want my stuff. Right? So he has like a will basically for that, because even he is trying to like manage his expectations, and he's not really sure what's going to happen when he goes into the hearing. Obviously we know that it was good news and it went well and he did get released. So we see him kind of enjoying the big crowd that we talked about. He waves to some brothers, like you said, who had gotten out before him and showed up there to show support. And then he gets to his house, and the first thing he does is touch this tree in his front yard. And he says when he left, the tree was like a baby tree, like it was barely sprouted, like a couple feet tall. And now it's like a huge tree. And he kind of just comments on how that's surprising. But he also says in prison, they don't have trees in the yard. I don't know why. Like, could people use branches as
of
like,
course,
weapons
come on,
or something? Yeah.
or
Okay.
climb the tree and get out.
Oh yeah, climb the tree. Yeah. So he said he hasn't touched a tree in 24 years,
Wow.
which is insane. And yeah, then you see his dad come in, and his dad does not look good. Like his dad
Freddy
looks
Krueger
like
shirt.
he needs. Yeah, Freddy Krueger shirt. It looks like he needs round the clock care. He's doesn't seem,
I really wonder
with
where
it
this guy's
very
been
much.
because they're not taking care of him, so he's getting taken care of somewhere.
Yeah, he's getting
Maybe
taken
family
care of somewhere. Yeah.
his family somewhere. Who knows?
Yeah. So Adnan opens the fridge. He's like eating
Yeah.
samosas some auntie made and stuff like that. He's all excited to eat. And it's funny because they show him like 6 or 8 months later. We'll get to it, like of what he's been up to, but they show him and you see like he's gotten bigger, and it's kind of like,
Oh,
it's
he's
cool
eating.
to see. I mean,
Like,
yeah,
come on,
he's eating.
man.
Good
Eat
for
whatever you
him.
want.
Good for
Yeah,
him.
eat whatever you want.
Yeah. Yeah. So he sits in his room, the time capsule of a room, and he says it's like super surreal to be in there. And he remembers being woken up by officers at like 5 a.m. and that like that was the last time he sat there, and they were like, put on your clothes, we're going to take you in. And it was like 24 years ago.
And then he names
he's
the
like,
detectives. He's like, it was detective this, detective that. He knows who took him.
yeah, yeah. And he says he's so happy to be home, but he's also mourning the fact that
Yeah.
he's away from these people who were like his family in a sense, his prison family, that he like people that he saw every night, that he spent all this time with. He was also commenting on how he felt really grateful and touched that they could be happy for him being released, even though they weren't being released.
Yeah.
That was really sweet too. And then we see happy news. Apparently, he got a position at Georgetown with the Prison and Justice Initiative. So he's working with Georgetown University, doing that stuff. He's been eating a little. He looks still yoked, but a big dude, having some good samosas and helping prisoner or people that have come out of prison. So,
yep,
that's that.
that's that.
It's kind of somber and sad. I don't know. It's like, I really don't know what to say. Do we have a little tea for tea time? Maybe that'll help.
Sure, but the tea is gonna piss you off. So there were plenty of people that could have, I don't want to say exonerated him, but at least given more information on what could have happened that day. And there was someone named Asia McClain, and she is very well featured in the Rabia Chaudhry serial podcast that we referred to earlier. So she wrote a book called Confessions of a Serial Alibi, because she's saying that she saw the accused, Adnan Syed, at the local library the same day of the unfortunate murder. So she went to the prosecutor at the time, not the lady that I was talking about, the Pakistan males.
Yeah.
But the other guy, and not the Frosh guy, another prosecutor. And that guy was like, no, we don't need you.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's kind of all
insane.
I know, because I haven't read the book. But she's out and about. She's in the documentary in the beginning saying, I don't really know why you don't want to talk to me.
So apparently also his lawyer was, I believe, sick, and I think she was going through chemo too. The lawyer he used at his original trial. So he wasn't represented vigorously and well by her either. And I think she may have also kind of just not brought up the Asia stuff as much as she should have.
Yeah.
And maybe turned Asia away from bringing her story forward more as well, which is so insane.
Yeah, I don't know like what she can do. He's already released and out, but I'm probably not going to read the book. And it could just be an opportunistic thing where she's like, I'll make a little money from writing my experience on one of the most famous cases of the 20th century in the United States. So that's the tea. However, it's just another person that they missed.
Yeah. I don't even know what to say, man.
Yeah. We joke around in our episodes, a lot of levity. We're fucking around. We use profanity, I guess, to describe what happens in today's world. But I don't know, it's a little somber just because when you go through a case like this, and we've been also following this case for a long time, we can also be a little empathetic towards the skin color issue. So it does make you kind of think, and it's a little depressing, and he probably feels the same way, and that's probably why he wasn't on the ground rolling around. And he even says, like, I lost all my friends because no one believed him. And then he gained all these new friends. And so it's somber.
And I think yeah, exactly. And I think that's the nature of this particular documentary. We've seen a lot of documentaries in the past on this case. Everybody's heard Serial, most people anyways, or, you know, other podcasts about this, they're undisclosed, etc. And they really focus on the details and the evidence and cops and who they interviewed and who they didn't interview and how. But this was really giving a human side of the story. And I feel like that's why it's even more somber. It's like, it's different. It's different than the other stuff that has covered his case, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
So.
And in a perfect world, this shit shouldn't even exist. We should have a justice system that does all the investigation, has no biases. Every single thing should be discovered and presented. Like you said, the Brady violations that they had throughout this case is weird. It's not weird. We know what they're doing. It's just these documentaries shouldn't exist. And it does sort of pull at what is inside of us, because a lot of this last hour of this documentary was somber music, a lot of cuts showing Baltimore, but there was no person describing anything, and they would just put like very somber music for a minute. So it's just like trying to get you into this like kind of sad state. So I am not a fan of documentaries like this, only because it pulls on your heartstrings, and things like this should be completely filled with information that is not just valid, but also worthy of being used in an investigation. So I feel like this stuff helps in turns like this, where the person is most likely innocent. But you could make a documentary like this and just present the other side of the case. And remove Alonzo Sellers and put back in the person that said he was there, Adnan Syed, that Jay guy, right? Jay said Adnan Syed was there. Put him in instead. Now we have a completely different documentary. That's why I know we watched it. I believe it. And there seems to be a lot of information out there that points towards him being innocent. But that's why we're living in this weird fucking world. And it does piss me off all the time.
Yeah. I agree.
Anyways. Everybody email us at jafterdark@jafterdark.com. We did something a little bit different today. We're not like that insane. We're very normal functioning people. So let us know what you thought. And if it was boring, I'm sorry.
Yeah. And find us at Jafterdark on Instagram and TikTok and on all podcast platforms. And give us a 5-star review. Okay. Just do it. Just give us a 5-star review.
We need help, man. Otherwise, got to go back to Pakistan as a male.
Yeah. And yeah, do your Pakistan
I need
stuff
those 5
in
stars.
Pakistan. All right. Yeah, let's throw the jingle on here and peace out. Dun, 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 dun.